What's going on, everybody? Khalipa's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G and the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G. In this video, I'm going to be going over everything you need to know about these phones to help you decide which one is right for you. Now, before we go any further, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. But with that being said, let's get into the video. So the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has a 6.5-inch TFT display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. We got a water drop notch up here for the front-facing camera. I'm typically not a huge fan of this look. I think the hole punch looks a lot cleaner. I wish they would have just done the same thing they did with the Samsung Galaxy A52 and A52 5G. That would have looked a lot better in my opinion. But this is what we get, and it's not that bad compared to other water drop notches, so I can overlook that. The bezels are decently thin except for this bottom one right here. I don't really know what the point of it is, but the bezel down here is always thicker for some weird reason. But other than that, the bezels on the side are okay. And overall, I do think the display looks really nice. The T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G has a 6.82-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 263, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. So pretty much all the specs for the display are the same except for one thing. As you can see here, the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus has a much bigger display than the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. So keep that in mind. Having a larger display is going to be better for content consumption. So whether you're streaming a video, viewing photos, reading, that sort of thing, you're going to have an overall better experience with the larger display because everything, of course, is going to be easier to see. Now, on the other hand, I do believe the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has a 90Hz refresh rate, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus doesn't. So keep that in mind. Having a higher refresh rate means the movement on the screen is going to be a little bit smoother and faster, so that might make a difference if you're watching a video or something. But overall, I do think the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G does have the advantage because this display is so much bigger, so videos, games, and just content in general is going to show up a bit better. For storage, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has 128GB with microSD card expansion, and the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G is getting 64GB, also with microSD card expansion. Now, it's worth noting that the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has several different variants, and there is one with only 64GB, but keep in mind you can get this in 128 for a little bit more. Whereas with the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G, I don't believe you can get a 128GB version of this phone. So if you do need more than 64GB, with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, you can just get a slightly more expensive version. But with the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G, if you need more than 64GB, you're just gonna have to find a whole new phone because they don't have a variant that has more storage. But that being said, unless you're a power user who has a bunch of different apps, you're probably not going to need more than 64GB. But if you are one of those people, if you are in a situation where you do think you're going to need more than 64, I would strongly consider going with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G because you can get more storage with this phone. Now, neither of these phones have wireless charging, no surprise there, but they both have nice fingerprint scanners right here on the power keys. So we're gonna try these out and see how well they work. We're gonna start with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. As you can see, it's really fast and responsive, no problems here. Moving on to the Revvl V Plus 5G. All right, one more time. And there we go. So both fingerprint scanners were real fast and responsive, no issues here. For the rear camera setup on the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, we got a 48 megapixel rear camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. For video, this phone can shoot 4K in the rear camera and 1080p in the front. Now the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G has a 16 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. This phone can shoot up to 2K in both the rear and the front cameras. Now honestly, when it comes to photos and videos, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is hands down the best decision here. Not only is the camera better quality in every way than the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G, but it has more features too. It has a macro camera, and this phone doesn't. And in the video quality, the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G can only shoot in 2K. And 2K is such a weird quality to me. I feel like it's kind of pointless. Basically just a middleman between 1080p and 4K that nobody really uses. I feel like if you want to shoot in a quality higher than 1080p, you might as well just go with 4K. In which case, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is going to have an advantage because it can shoot 4K videos, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G can't. Internally, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is getting 6 gigabytes of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 720 5G processor. I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 504 and a multi-core score of 1670. The T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G is getting 4 gigabytes of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 processor. I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 541 and a multi-core score of 1692. Now this is actually pretty interesting. These processors are so similar, and the difference in processing power between these two is pretty much negligible. Neither of these phones is really gonna be strictly faster than the other. A difference of 20 points on a Geekbench 5 benchmark test is really not that much, considering that a lot of factors go into how these results are actually calculated. So what I would really pay attention to in this case is the RAM. Now on one hand, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has 6 gigabytes of RAM, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G has only 4. Now when this is gonna make a difference is really gonna be when you're doing stuff like multitasking, if you're doing something that's really taxing on the processor, and more of those complex activities. If you're just browsing the web and going on social media and that sort of thing, then these processors might as well just be the same because they're gonna give you such a similar level of performance to each other that you're probably not even gonna notice the difference. But if you're continuously multitasking or doing something like Fortnite or video editing with larger files, then I would say the Samsung Galaxy A32 is gonna have just a tiny bit of an edge because it has 2 gigabytes more RAM than the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G. But once again, don't read too much into this because so many different factors go into which processor is actually running faster than the other. It's not as simple as just one has more RAM, one has a technically slightly higher level processor. It's a little bit more complex than that. But in practical application, these phones are going to operate in pretty much the same exact level when it comes to processing power. They're going to be able to do pretty much anything you would reasonably want to do on a daily basis. So whether you're just browsing the web and using social media, or if you're doing some gaming, even higher end gaming like Fortnite should be okay. It might not be the best. These phones are nowhere near today's flagship phones. The iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra both have near double the processing power of these phones, if not more than double. But as for these phones, for normal day-to-day use, you're gonna be able to do pretty much anything with them. Now these phones both have a 5000 milliamp hour battery, so that's really good. You're gonna get a ton of battery life throughout the day. Even if you use your phone a lot, you probably won't have to charge these. And both of them support fast charging, 15 watt fast charging with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, and 18 watt with the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G. Really not a big difference unless you have a huge fast charger, but even then, if you can have your phone plugged in even for just a reasonable percentage of the day, this isn't even gonna matter. It's only gonna matter if your phone is almost dead and you have to charge it up really fast, just a little life in it or something like that. Otherwise, for all intents and purposes, these phones basically have the same level battery. Now another thing both of these phones have is NFC, which I think is really cool. In case you don't know what it is, NFC is the technology behind contactless mobile payment services, like Google Pay, Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, all that. Both of these phones are currently on Android 11, and neither of them technically have an advantage over the other in terms of software, but I personally still think the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is a little bit better just because I like Samsung's skin a little better. It has the edge panel here that I think is really useful, and it also has a few better features like more gestures that you can use. So in conclusion, which one of these phones is better? This is a really close one because in lots of ways, these phones are almost equal, but I will give it to the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. This phone has double the storage of the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G, and granted, there is a 64GB version, in which case they would be equal, but the fact remains that if you want more storage, you could just get a better variant of the A32 5G, whereas with the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G, you just have to get a different phone because there is no higher variant. In addition to this, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has such a better camera that it's not really even a contest. It has a macro camera, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G doesn't. And even in the features that they both have, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G just outperforms the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G, and the max video quality is better too. The A32 5G can shoot 4K, whereas this phone can only shoot 2K. So in every way, the photo and video capabilities of this phone is just better. In addition to that, the A32 5G does have more RAM, more options with NFC thanks to Samsung Pay, and in my opinion, just a better Android skin overall. But that being said, if you're looking for a phone with a larger display, then the T-Mobile Revvl V Plus 5G is gonna have an advantage there. But regardless, both of these phones are great mid-level phones with really powerful processors, huge batteries, and plenty of nice features. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I will see you in the next video.